Pure Progress was the first project where I had gotten my new microphone. Previously, everything that I had recorded had either been done on my original M Audio USB microphone or I believe it was a Rode NT USB microphone. Um, those were the only two mics I had before. So everything prior to Pure Progress was recorded on those USB microphones. I struggled a bit with learning the new mic at first because it had a lot more settings. It was an emulation microphone, but I bring this up when I can. I always use the USB microphones. I've already explained why. I have another microphone that is an XLR, but I prioritize my USB microphone. This first one, I was just like with Pure Progress, I was just trying out different mic emulations and settings because it had a whole suite of effects that I could use um, in the microphone what is the word? Pre-processing. Yeah. So I wanted to test all of that and just explore. So Pure Progress was that. It was just pure exploration and trying to understand the technical side of my microphone. It's funny because Pop always makes reference to Goku's Ultra Instinct form when he talks about how quickly I adapt to stuff and how it always seems like I'm just in a constant flow state of creation, right? And this one was when he said it's almost like I had a quirk from, My Hero about being able to progress, just like almost unbelievably so. So that's where the idea of Pure Progress came from. Just those conversations with Pop about the skill set and how rapidly it felt like I was improving since some of my older stuff. But I give a lot of that credit for the improvements to him as well in pushing me to explore more deeper into hip hop stuff, but also into my mindset. And I feel like since I was a happier person, I was soaking up knowledge a lot quicker and a lot easier. And I didn't really have any mental barriers when it came to allowing me to grow. I was able to just, here's my idea. I do my idea. I put my idea out to the world, and then I don't look at my idea and I don't beat myself up about how well it's doing. I just instantly get to work on, okay, well, this is also an idea I have, and I get to work on that. So Pure Progress was another instance of that, but also in somewhat of a different way, because while the cover art is, darker, I did intend for it to be, like a short, just little experiment project. Around this time, I had already gotten into the mindset of like, okay, I do one big project each year and everything else is just my little experiments and my little passion projects, right? Bloom was my big 2020 project. And then everything else that came in 2020 was just like me exploring. Even though To Nurture the Soul was also a big project, my biggest project was, of course, Bloom for that year. So for this year, Pure Progress was an experiment. It didn't feel like my big album just because it was the first thing I released that year. I knew it was definitely going to be like, I'm just exploring. I even experimented with this idea of individual cover arts per song, and I did it somewhat like a museum painting, and I had like the title of the painting, the date that it was painted. I gave each of them their own little framings and things like that, and ultimately, since I never got physical CDs of Pure Progress made, I did create a little booklet, and it had all of the art inside of that little booklet. So that was a fun little thing to do in addition to the creation of that project. But in terms of the songs, all of the songs for Pure Progress were somewhat lyrical exercises. None of them were like these super introspective and poetic songs. It was definitely like, well, I have a lot of beats left over from when we did Marvel's 4 and the prelude, and they weren't, my first choice of beat, but I was like, I don't like stuff to go to waste. So I was like, let me just, I'll work on these songs, and um, it'll give me a reason to explore the capability of this microphone. So it was definitely more, uh, what do you call it? I don't want to say radio hits because I don't feel like they were radio hits, but they were definitely in that field. They were closer to that than just like album cuts. They were definitely closer to songs for the radio, um, in that style, and purely, hip hop and even trap in some instances. Um, it was different for that time. I explored a bit of, inflections and different rhyme schemes and stuff to just kind of play around with how I was coming up with songs. And it did end up leading to me trying to get into the habit of shooting music videos, because a big criticism I got um, post debut album was I don't shoot enough videos. And I used to shoot videos, but I did it out of a necessity of shooting videos. It wasn't because I just had this grand desire to shoot videos for all these songs. It used to be just like, oh, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And I was young, and I used to be, a very literal rule follower where it's like, oh, well, that's what you do. You have to drop a single, and you have to do an album, and you have to have videos and all that stuff. But obviously, as I grew into my own person, I was just like, that's not something I enjoy doing. But I did want to push myself because the project was called Pure Progress. I wanted to push myself and actually shoot a video. So one day, I had asked Pop and Diero to come over and help me shoot the video, and we shot the video for Pure Progress. And that was when I was like, well, I will try my best to shoot at least one video for each project I do going forward. And the video for Pure Progress was fun. Darion had tried this head tracking thing that was real popular back then. And, I think the video turned out great. Initially, the plan was to drop it on April Fool's Day. And I think I did drop it on April Fool's Day, but the way that the video starts, it's like a teaser before the actual video starts. Because, I don't like just performing the song. Sometimes I like to try and throw in little clips of what would be like short film clips and just kind of set the story and things like that. So the video starts, and, a case is like a briefcase is being stolen and stuff, and you see it being passed off and things like that. And I opened the door and I was like, oh, you thought I was dropping a video today. Ha, April Fools. And I closed the door. And that was all I put up for the teaser. And then the video dropped a little later, the actual full-length video. Because a lot of people, when I had been mentioning, oh, I'm going to shoot a video, they're like, yeah, sure you are. Right. We know you don't shoot videos. You're not going to shoot a video. So it was, my own little joke about them thinking I wasn't actually going to get it done. But overall, even though it's a short project, like I said, I was doing these shorter projects here and there for my more experimental ones. So I didn't feel like I was making bloated projects. It was like a nice little get in, get out. And then I was saving the longer projects for my big albums. But even then, I was starting to get to the point of shrinking them down and trying to just make them, instead of doing 30 songs, instead of doing 20 songs, try to keep it under 20. And then sometimes it was like, okay, can I get it down to under 15? Can I get it down to 10 if I really can? And, I would keep that in mind. But overall, Pure Progress, it kind of, unfortunately, I feel like it came and went. I feel like some of the songs are really creative and they're fun. And it's not just like a bunch of like personal anecdotes and poems and storytelling. Some of them are just like, they're storytelling, of course, like Cruising Exotica. I used to always play the Cruising Exotica game on the N64 with my cousins. And I remember he always used to beat me. And he had this like, it was this alien in a red flatbed or something like that. It might have been like, thinking about it now, I think it was like a flat car and it had like solar panels on it or something to look futuristic back then. But I definitely remember playing Cruising Exotica, and I I made a song about that. And the little cover for that one is an abstract painting, and you can see the little alien. It was like what I could somewhat remember from the world that we were racing through. That I always remember seeing that little alien. So yeah, it was a fun project to make. I did end up learning a bit about not the album, but about the microphone, the new microphone, and I was able to tweak that stuff before I went into what I feel would become my first classic album, and my first, like, it's gonna stand the test of time. This is like, when you think of me, you think of this album going forward. And, before I get into that, obviously I'll play a song from Pure Progress, but this was really the beginning of a whole new wave where I feel like Bloom kicked off the future of my artistry. I feel like Pure Progress kind of ended that little time frame and set a really strong punctuation point for what was going to come afterwards.